I'm Trek with 2Ks. Alrighty then. And is it doing? All right, there we go. Bat it up. All right. I believe that is where it's supposed to be. It has been a while, friends. It has been a while. GnGs, it has so been a while. But not as long as I thought it was. I just realized today when I was looking at notes and stuff that it has not been as long as I thought. Hold on. Bet. All right. So let's get through this. And then geez, where are you? And so there's a couple of things that are going on that definitely has me like, what the hell? And so I'm gonna kind of get into a couple of those things, but let me break down the, if you don't know how this kind of works, the short is I go through Twitter and I find the things that scratch my brain, and then I talk about them here on the Trekkw2ks Live channel, which is pushed over through 2 different actual YouTube channels, and on Twitch and on Twitter. I just do the Twitch thing just to see how it works out. The 2 heavier sides are the YouTube side and the Twitter side, aka X. And you see how it goes. Some days I'm hitting on it, and some days I'm not. And then I also do this thing where I recap like an epiphany or takeaway that I have while talking these thoughts out loud to the internets, and we see where it goes from there. And the engagement is so over on LinkedIn. I'm definitely arguably one of the more unique voices as far as like for how I talk about and the things I talk about over on that side. For those of you who've been on LinkedIn, you probably should have an idea of what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, let's get into some of these things. Man, like, so I was looking at my notes today, and it ain't even been a full month since I last did something. Because what was the last title? Like, gone for how long, and then come back and still things the same, or something along that line. And arguably, things are a little different. Things are a little different, but at the same time, some of the stuff for crypto wise, still the same bullshit. And so let's jump into that scenario. Let me just line up some of the stuff that caught my attention. Is this the one? Nope, that's last episode. Wait, where did that one go? Oh, and all right. So I guess to say condolences to the family of Africa Bambaataa, because apparently he passed. So news to me. Sad to hear, right? Testing out something else too. I'm using, ironically, my older Asus laptop, and I'm trying to see how this is going to play out in terms of the video playback for when I'm going through Twitter stuff, because I know sometimes like I might kind of skip through some of the stuff, or I might not really give it the full context of if I'm not playing the actual clip, if it's a clip of something. And so we're gonna test that out today. First go in the new year, in the month of April. Yeah. So let's see if this plays out the way I need it
Now
to
listen,
play out.
the people think that Satoshi designed Bitcoin. Nonsense.
All right.
It was a
I'm also
team of
trying to
11
see
people.
how the audio is doing a little bit of lag right now. Well, all right. I guess we might have to burn that idea and actually go and get a new laptop. So that I can get the audios to work out better. Because is it? Yeah, let's see. Nope. I'm definitely getting the delay. So we're gonna cut that idea, and unfortunately, I can only show you the still of it. So let's jump over. Oh man, that was a whole pause. Jesus. All right. So hopefully when YouTube like does what it's supposed to do, the whole thing is gonna uh be out. Like the break isn't gonna be there the way it is. All right. So yeah. This is what happens when you aren't on the computer every day. Well, not on the computer, but in regards to this. So I happen to again scrolling through Twitter, see this joint by Luke Martin, and he brings up something about back in the day with John McAfee. And there are things that I will say that I have heard in the latter years about McAfee, and there's some other things that I've just read outside of him as a person, but things in relation to like Latin America and stuff that for how the smear campaign went against him is wild and crazy. Because he was definitely a highly intelligent man, and you know you can say what you want to say about the rug pulling period that he was doing, but it doesn't take away that he was a smart dude, no matter what. So within that regards, and jumping into this, um, he talks about how it took him $200 good afternoon, and then he was able to figure out who Satoshi was. Now in this clip he specifically like doesn't mention the name of who he believes in the collective of individuals who compiled the actual technology together. um that is one individual who actually put words to paper, and he did a couple of different things to figure it out, as he's saying. But like he made a point, and I think that I don't know. I feel like as a quote good natured person, or a person with a conscience. There we go. Because at the end of this, and it's like a under 3 minute clip, he makes the point. The guy makes the point because he says he actually talks to him directly and phone call, and he goes, well, let's say you're right. Now I got to go hire a bunch of security guards and stuff like that because of how many people want to come after me for this, that, and the third. And he says, but like, what happens if you're wrong? Now you just totally upended somebody's life who 9 times out of 10 is going to end up via way of their eternal sleep, because now everyone thinks they're that guy, right? And I was like, wow, that would be a hell of a situation to be in terms of this bit of information, but your consciousness gets to you to the point of like, if I divulge this and I'm wrong, like, was that worth turning somebody's life upside down? Does that better help the technology work? Is it going to add to the proliferation of this technology? Arguably, I feel like he made the right decision, and this is on the assumption that he did talk to the person, and that's why it worked out. Again, that's just my take on that. Other people could disagree with me. Not an issue if you disagree. The comments are always open. um So yeah, I just wanted to throw that one out there real quick on the end of like here we are all these years later, more than a decade, approaching two, Bitcoin's a teenager at this point, and so much stuff has transpired and developed and um stayed or staved, is it stayed disaster in terms of like Bitcoin. I guess that also depends on how um uh not chorused, what's the word, not primal, but like how um not true believer, damn, it's not radical, but basically like how close are you to like the, well, yeah, Bitcoin, but then it's like, well, which Bitcoin are you? It's like, well, oh, I'm a Christian. It's like, wait, what denomination are you? You know what I'm saying? Like the purist. There we go. So it's like, um, a lot has happened over these like 12 plus, what is it, going into 15 years or something now? Yeah, around there. But nonetheless, just throwing it out there to the folks in the internets. Um, and so, yeah, moving on that one. As you see what the thumbnail looks like and what the caption reads. So here's the funny thing, right? And then this also gets me into a segue about what Google's Gemini is doing. And I haven't tested it out with any of the other what's the things called? Any of the other LLMs, AI joints, to see if they're also censoring the same way that Google's Gemini is censoring. So here it is. I want to make a thumbnail for this live episode, right? And you saw what the caption is about Iran and the oil and crypto, and I'm just like, I call cap on it. So I put those together, and usually in the past, when I have just dropped it in like that for stuff, I don't have an issue in terms of quote sensitive topics, and either the filters are getting better in them being able to filter what words people put together, because literally that's what it told me. It basically said that it couldn't generate the image combining the words of Iran, oil, and oil tanker. It was oil tanker, Iran, and crypto. Couldn't combine those words because it was suggestive. And I'm like, suggestive of what? Like, how does this work where it doesn't tell you how to do it, and it doesn't make it that because I made a thumbnail that makes the action happen? That's not how that works. But nonetheless, I'm going to turn this into a LinkedIn article tomorrow, and it'll be a Twitter post at some point, either today or tomorrow. But more interestingly to note that like we thought the censorship was bad before, like, and think about this in the context of, all right, if we're talking about things related to like minors and like, what would it not nerfing, what is the damn thing where you do like the pretend death scene things. If we're talking about stuff like that, all right, there's a level of logical reason to it, right? It makes sense in that manner. But when you're talking about like, oh, well, it's a geopolitical sensitive subject, for who? How does that actually perpetuate the idea, like the process, the how? And so jumping into that, now this is going to be the segue over into that. I'm really not trying to be on here super long, but y'all know how I be sometimes and how I get caught up in some of this stuff. Okay, so around the beginning of the month, I started hearing things here and there talking about how Iran was taking crypto for oil. And then we got into the whole thing about the yuan. And then today I was listening to Eli the computer guy, and some online platform had like a whole like exclusive. But the way it read, I was like, well, obviously this person doesn't know jack shit about crypto. Because if you knew anything about how AML works right now, how compliance works right now, how the centralized exchanges and even the quote marketed DeFi exchanges and transportation laws work, it doesn't make sense to be like, well, it's non-traceable and the Western governments can't take it. Like bullshit. So it was just like a number of things in my mind when I heard it. I was like, this is stupid. Like, who's actually saying this? Show me the press release from someone within the Iranian government who's like, yes, from this point forward, we're gonna do transaction in crypto. And then the other part that also is like a telltale sign that it's like BS. There's a couple of things. One is it's $1 per barrel, right? If you look up the carrying capacity of a large, and I think it's like an extra large oil tanker, and we're only talking oil tankers. We're not even getting into LNG. We're not even getting into the whole helium thing. We're not getting into that other chemical that's needed in like every type of friggin' metallurgy, which apparently that's a bigger market that goes through the Strait of Hormuz than oil. It's like 50% of the world's and I don't remember what the name of this chemical is, but you need it in metallurgy. Like, and I'm talking like doing some of the basic stuff. It is a key component. 50% of that travels through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, jumping back. So onto this oil tanker thing, as far as it's a $1 thing. And here's how I'm deconstructing this as a actual real thing. One, I have yet to see anybody produce a actual verified wallet of any crypto that was used in one of these transactions. So that's one thing, right? Two, the way that it's being explained in terms of like, here's the talking points of why they're using crypto. That's that, like, we talking back in 2016, 17 for how ALM and like KYC and transportation laws work. We're not talking about how this shit work in 2026. And then the other thing of, again, the capacity for how much a large and an extra large oil tanker carries, you're talking about for a what is it, a large carrier, it is 2 to 2 point something million barrels worth of oil. So you're telling me somebody's gonna be like, yeah, let's do $1 a barrel, so that's 2 something million dollars worth of crypto per tanker. On average, before 2026 situation, you were talking about 100 and something ships going through there a day. I don't know what the percentage of those would be tankers. Let's say it was about 75. Let's say half of the 75 was going to end up paying the crypto. And even if you're saying it's a mid-sized ship, you're still talking a couple 100,000 barrels. Like the madness that would do in the crypto market alone is crazy. So then the other part then comes into, well, this shit don't make sense. If you saying they're about to try to use crypto, and we talking about like a traditional crypto, so is it like an Ethereum or a Bitcoin, something along that lines? Sol would have too many issues because that's just that would be a car crash waiting to happen. For the hacks, what the company itself would do, how the government would put pressure on it to mess with the transactions, it'd be just too much not liability. What's the word I'm looking for? It would be too much potential issue risk. There we go. It would be too much risk if they use anything like Sol, if they used anything like Polygon, If they use an Ethereum, that would be a whole nother issue unto itself. So then it's like, well, it would only make sense to avoid slippage because of the market conditions as far as the manipulation that happens now with the crypto ETFs like an Ethereum, like a Bitcoin, like I think Sol and Poly and a couple others have their own ETFs now. So you have that paper market manipulation, which plays into the I don't want to say the solid market, but like the original market, the non-derivative market version of the crypto. But you still have the slippage that happens. You still have it where you have the 24-hour market of how exchanges generally work, and then you have them competing with Wall Street that is only working in the West on a what is that, an 8-hour day. Yeah, you'll have extended hours. Yeah, you'll have international. Like the crossing of the markets don't even make sense to me, which would mean like either you're setting yourself up for risk and liability because of the amount of like manipulation that would go into it. So then you get over into stable coins. All right, so we're going to use stable coins. Well, how does this work? Then lo and behold, let me find where I should have used that other article. If anybody's interested, that's not even that one. Sorry, y'all. My bad. I'm like running around in thought process here while trying to find certain things online. So stable coins. The only way it would make sense to do transactions at that scale for how the oil market would work, and the other part of, again, if it's only about 20-something% of the world's oil supply that moves through the Strait of Hormuz, what about the other chemical components or elements that also go through? So you got the helium thing that they're talking about that relates to the Silicon Valley stuff. Or not the Silicon Valley. Nah, I don't even count XRP as the bridge. But what's going on, Infinity Jack? I don't count XRP as a bridge because it would have the same issues that the stable coins are going to have. In that you have the centralization, you have it that the American government will definitely put the thumbs on somebody. So, so you have the centralization that's the issue if you're a stable coin that includes XRP. So the government, in particular for the West, can definitely put the screws on you through the financial regulatory network. You then have it that and I'm gonna get into this other story a little bit later about the EU and how they're pushing MiCA forward, they may end up trying to ban American stable coins like USDC and USDT. So now jumping back over here into this oil thing, USDC and USDT. USDC is, what is that? Chase, and USDT is Tether. Granted, they're not, I don't think they're domiciled now in the US, but they can still get the same pressure. Yeah, I don't know what RLUSD is right now, and I'm not gonna look it up at the moment. But the point being is, the way crypto would have to move at that level, it has too much risk to it between the hackers and the governments and the platform owners themselves. There is way too much risk, in my mind, in trying to use either a traditional crypto in terms of something like a Bitcoin or a Ethereum, and then there's also the risk of, if you're talking about stable coins, and that just how that would play out in the market on a daily. If the Strait of Hormuz was able to get back up to full capacity and they were still going to charge the toll, again, one extra large tanker is 2.5 to 4 million barrels worth of oil. And then we're not even getting into what the other ship containers and stuff are carrying. And then what they would end up getting charged. Like, what? And that would just look like madness to me on the crypto charts. And then you get into, at least in my mind, I would argue it would be easier for you to go and acquire the digital yuan, which was, and there's something I wonder about what's going on with this whole narrative now around pushing the crypto angle thing, is that are we being prepped for the argument of we need more crypto regulation? And I say that on the end of, as I was looking up the story, and I'm gonna jump into this real quick, and I'm gonna read. Hold on, whose thing is this? Whose thing is this? Hold on. So this, excuse me. A shoot, excuse me, a shoe toss looks like an ETH fan. 86% of firms say infrastructure is ready. Visa executes regular institutional adoption. I forgot who it was right now, but somebody's doing more transactions than Visa and MasterCard combined, and it's crypto related. And I've seen something about that the other day, but I don't remember the name right now. The gap isn't technical. Off ramps, on and off ramps, treasury workflow, audit trails, the blockchain works. Yes, everyone knows the blockchain works. The blockchain, or quote, the blockchains, plural, have been working for years at this point. Technically, more than a decade. If you're going by like who are the early bird conventional cryptos, the blockchains, plural, have been working for more than a decade. But anywho, this part right here got me, which was the real map is an adoption, it's regulation. UAE, yeah, I heard this about the Vera and some other stuff that they're doing as far as the commercial side. Singapore, Mass is the name of their institution, I believe. USA, we call it the Genius Act, but in my mind, the Genius Act more focuses on stable coins than it does the crypto space as a whole, but it also opens us up for a whole bunch of foolery. Again, that is just in my mind and my interpretation of what I think the Genius Act is about to unfold on the American public. Just my take. Don't gotta agree with me though. Hong Kong licenses incoming. I still think that Hong Kong is going to be the sandbox that works out for the East and the West, and that they are definitely ahead of the curve in what they already have going on within that location in terms of the varying financial instruments and how they're letting the Western countries, or the Western companies more so, and startups and established places come in and play around. And that's their connection into the mainland of China. But that's just my take on it. Again, last thing here is MiCA, which is the European thing around stablecoins. Actually, I said this wrong. This whole setup is around stablecoins as far as the focus of what these different nation states, aka countries, are doing, right? And so, oh shoot, Black Rule is on. Shout outs to that guy right there. He's, it literally, there's only like I think 2 of us right now that are still kicking on doing this crypto content stuff, and I ain't even gonna hold y'all. I am such in a struggle on trying to keep the fire under myself about actually bringing stuff up. But again, it's a lot harder to do when you aren't a price talk focused person or trying to give indirect or educational financial awareness as how the space is playing out. That's why, me personally, I look to stick with the no price talk and stick to like more of the news, development, regulatory, technical things related to the space and how I think they're they might play out, or they're playing out, or is there a trend or a pattern? But nonetheless, in regards to going into this, as far as like, yeah, it's a legal framework thing, because just as this was being pushed out from like the beginning of the month, again, like I was saying, where's the other one? There's another one. Not that one. I'm gonna get to that story in a minute. Seeing this. So just in, this was earlier today. SEC Chair Paul Atkins calls for Congress to pass crypto market structure legislation. It's time for Congress to future-proof against rogue regulators and advance comprehensive market structure legislation to President Trump's desk. Now, granted, hey, what's going on? Courtney Johnson. Sorry, I'm reading slow. Don't mind me. So, like, how am I saying this? The new SEC guy, Atkins, is being touted as crypto friendly in comparison to his predecessor. But in my mind, he's still in the same camp as Hester Pierce. You cannot work as the commissioner of the jail, and then as the jailed person expect to go to the commissioner and be like, hey, I would like more freedom. I think we should do blah, blah, blah. Like, no, dog, that's not what their job is. Their job is to keep you in a confined space in a regulated manner. That's just how it works. It's the nature of the beast. And so literally, I seen one person talk about it again. I heard it in the beginning of the month. I see Eli the computer guy talk about this Iran crypto oil thing again today. And then I'm just like, why is this making the rounds like this? And I start looking through Twitter, and then it's just like, okay, this is really, really getting around, but no one is providing a verified wallet that is connected to Bitcoin, to Ethereum. No one is saying like, well, here's the exchange that they're going through. There's none of that, but everyone keeps quoting the other person. So the crypto news platforms are quoting mainstream platforms like The Hill and Bloomberg, but Bloomberg's not actually Bloomberg isn't providing a hard source of like, well, here's the press release that the Iranian blah, blah, blah person said, or here's the wallet that we were able to trace through blah, blah, blah. They ain't talk to no compliance people to be like, oh yeah, we noticed that the transactions going through this and this exchange are connected to. So in my mind, it's like, well, why is this getting all this attention if you're not putting out any verifiable information? Oh, we're getting prepped for regulatory advancement. And then I scroll through Twitter and I see this. And then there's another one that I seen too that was talking about, the same thing as far as like putting together some kind of regulatory thing. Glad to hear that you got the book and you're enjoying it. It has its tidbits in there. Not even gonna hold you. It has its tidbits in there. I really would like to see that he got out the second one, but it is what it is right now. Where am I going? There was another thing. All right. So there is another one. Where's the other one? No, that wasn't it. All right. So this story, it's not directly crypto related, but it's crypto related. So Politico, all right, one of the things that I am paying attention to right now is like certain things that the Treasury Department does. And as some of y'all know who've been on this ride with me for a minute, I've been talking about things like Capital Flight and the OFAC report from like 3-ish, 4 years ago now, and just how we see the regulatory space developing around crypto, how we see the TradFi embracing crypto, and in some cases really taking over crypto. We see what the Wall Street daddy folks are doing in regards to the ETFs. We see the stuff that's coming out of Andreessen Horowitz's mouth right now, and how like, oh, this is crypto about to do the thing, and it's like, oh, he must got his dry powder ready. He about to make a killing on something. But to this point, in regards to this particular post and like what it connects to, so one of the things I started doing is setting Google alerts, right? And you could, and tidbit on, depending on whatever your interest is, right? Like if you're looking at certain technical things or like certain industries that you're really interested in, like if you're interested in stuff like drones, or if you're interested in stuff like the housing market, if you're interested in stuff like, you know, the newest dance or like whatever, literally you can go into any one of the AI LLM joints and be like, all right, what tags would I use and how would I combine them with like balloon searching techniques, and put them into what's the thing called right now, the Google alerts, and then like you could literally have it like pop up every day to give you like, hey, here's the things that were flagged based on the filters that you had in regards to your word combination. And that's one of the things that I had put together because I was trying to get into some stuff as it relates to what the treasury market's doing. And I happen to literally like 2 days later, I get the alert. I start just reading through the titles first. I'm reading through the caption titles, and it's like, okay, all right, what's this? And then it's like Treasury Department shuts down. So the short of it is, there's about 100 or something people who work in what is called the Office of Financial Research. And they're the folks who dig in the hard numbers about what's going on in the financial markets. In particular, the big talk of the talk right now is what's going on in the AI bubble, as far as like the back end investor folks, the main lead players as far as the tech bros, and what is going on in the private equity, because private equity is being pushed around in all of this. And the other part that we don't necessarily talk about with private equity is how much of that money is foreign money. Like I was listening to was it David Calhoun? I know I'm saying his last name wrong, but he was talking about, because he's a professor up at Cornell, I believe, and he was saying like Saudi Arabia is the largest West Asian donator that they have for that university. But he was like, the money's all around the place. Like if you really go digging, you will find that there is a lot of what we used to call the Middle Eastern nations, the Middle Eastern sandbox, the area. Now we're going like I don't know what y'all are paying attention to. I just know the things that I'm paying attention to. They're talking about how we're going back to calling it West Asia. So you have it that, you know, the UAE folks, the Oman, the Saudi Arabia, the Jordan, like those what do they call them? They're not nation state trust funds. There's something else that I can sovereign trust funds. Yeah. So you have that. Then you have like the stuff that's coming out of like China, but the money is being pushed through in the American market on both like the very transparent um um publicly available research information, and then you have what's going on within the equity markets, which is not as transparent, in fact very opaque, when you're trying to really trace down who's actually putting up what, and like where is it being pooled at, if that's the right phrasing. Nonetheless, this department is supposed to do that, or this section of the Treasury Department is supposed to do that. And they're basically looking to cut down the number of people who are working in that department. Now, one of the people who I recently started following is this gentleman named Nick Anthony. He talks about like financial regulatory stuff. He talks on crypto stuff too. But his point was, I'm a little skeptical. The value in the data, there's value in data standardization, but 110 million point seven, well, 110.7 million for 196 employees seems like overkill. Now, in my mind, considering the financial foolery and shenanigans that has gone on over how many years, decades even, for some of the people who have come to light, case in point, the E-Man and the E-Island, like, so you're telling me that, and this is not a directly at Nick Anthony, right? Not directing this at him in per se, but it's more so one of those, like, we had these departments, or we have these sections within the Treasury Department, within the DOJ, within, you know, other FinCEN, SEC, and like who's supposed to be like watching these high level players. Again, remember Sam Bankman-Fried, all of the things that he got in trouble for, there was already regulatory policies and practices and rules and divisions that were in place. He didn't break no new rule. There was no crypto thing that he broke. All of the traditional financial regulatory stuff was already there. And so to this, I say, like, I'm way more skeptical on the end of, if we already had rules on the books and people were still being called the golden child and being blessed off. Bernie Madoff, he was doing for years. Chase, JP Morgan, the folks knew how the money was moving. Years. Who's the other one that I just thought of a minute ago? Damn, I forgot it already, but whatever. Y'all get what I'm saying in terms of, you have these people doing things, and yes, here and there we have people held accountable and go to, you know, jail of some sort for it. But like, the pattern of behavior in the bigger market doesn't change. People are still doing things that you're just like, yo, like, I shouldn't have to tell you not to do that. Or better yet, that shouldn't actually turn into a what is it, a cost of production. Oh shoot, I'm in the wrong screen. Yeah, like that shouldn't turn into a part of your cost of doing business. So like, I remember they used to talk about how after the housing crash happened and we had the 08-07 recession, it was like, and this was going on before this, but like companies, financial institutions would calculate, well, what is the fine going to be for us if we get caught for blah blah blah, and it's like, all right, well, that's going to only be like 100K. That ain't nothing. We gonna make like 9K a week, so whatever. And that's literally what you have. Hey, what's going on, Jake Fever, man? Good to see you, sir. I see the post with the hoodies, the shirts, and everything. Looking fly, sir. Looking fly. But to my point, or to the point of, if you already have people breaking the laws that are already there and they know that they're not supposed to, how is it gonna, like, how am I saying this? The point of this particular section of the Treasury Department is to look into the shenanigans of what might be going on. And at this point, I think we all have a good enough understanding that there's definitely shenanigans going on. It's the whole thing of, is the person who's supposed to be watching and checking for the shenanigans, are they able to watch it, not watch it, but be able to like say, oh, I see funny business going on here. Let me investigate. Let me get it to the point where we're gonna like hold somebody accountable, and not just take the lowest scapegoat on the totem pole, and we actually change the behavior of the institution or like the better quote, not the better, but the common business practice within this financial sector. That's the point of this particular section of the Treasury. But that's not what's going to happen. And so I took it to say, what happens when you take the canary out of the coal mine? If you don't know, the reference in regards to the canary in the coal mine is that the canary will be able to smell or sense the poison gas before the human beings could. So if you see the canary just drop over in the cage, guess what? There's a gas leak. What is that? Methane or one of them, the gases that are underground in the caves and stuff. That means you got to get the workers out. So when you take it in terms of the financial, the financial markets in particular, it's like, well, like to the example again of the 08 recession, there were a number of people, including people inside the White House at the time, that were like, hey, the way the financial housing market stuff is going, this whole thing of wrapping up mortgages and securitizing them, this got a shelf life on it, and it's not going to be good when the shelf life, comes to an end. But what happened? The lobbyists was doing what they was doing. Wall Street daddies was like, nah, keep the good times rolling. The White House folks at the head of it was like, nah, my people's is good. And then when everything happened, oh my God, we never saw this. We didn't know. It was those lazy, unqualified, low income people of color, poor people who wanted homes when they didn't deserve it. So you're telling me that multiple financial institutions were able to just somehow unintentionally coordinate a business practice that allowed, let's say, hundreds of thousands of poor, undeserving people of color to come in the system and take the houses that they couldn't afford from the people who could afford them. It was all the colored people who did this. They just somehow, they didn't go to the head of what, Wachovia, M&T Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. They didn't go to them and be like, hey, you know what y'all should do? Y'all should let all of us unqualified people get houses, take our mortgage titles, securitize them, and then sell them out on the open market. They didn't come up with that, but that was the common business practice. If this is our example in history of here's how the financial institution shows they ass to the public, and then the government jumped on board and was like, yeah, it's the poor people's fault. And particularly not the light poor people. And here we are now. We downsized the department that's supposed to actually be looking out for the shenanigans. Depending on who you're paying attention to as far as the economy and the financial sector stuff, you already got folks calling out the AI market is way the hell overvalued. This is going to be another bubble. There's a bigger issue in terms of the bigger GDP economy and all that stuff, and like not just us as like Americans. And it's going to go down when arguably we're already in it. The question is, like, when does the facade break? That's the bigger part. Like, when does the facade break of the recession moving into a depression? Because heaven no, I know where I'm at. Gas is already up at 4. If I go further up outside of the county I'm in, I get closer to, what is that, 420? I think I've seen it for as high as 425. And I believe New York is already close to like 450. Other thing of note, how is it that region-wise, I don't remember gas prices being so close together? Am I the only one that's noticing that for like where I'm driving on the East Coast side? And I'm crossing states, and the gas price seems to be like a couple of cents difference between one another, which is wild to me because I don't remember it being that. Nonetheless, I'm beating the horse too much. I appreciate the folks who dropped in. Thank y'all. Jake Fever, who's that? Dead Set One Destruction. I appreciate Courtney, definitely thank you too. Infinity. Yeah, man. Like I appreciate you too. Lurkers, appreciate y'all folks too. Like I said, this was a couple of things that just over the last couple of days that kind of just been on my head as far as just seeing like what's going on in the crypto space, what's going on in the just general economy, financial markets, and it's just all kind of connecting through right now. And it's looking crazy to me, at least. I'm gonna say to me, at least, it's looking crazy. But you know, as I say to y'all, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a financial advisor. Um, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some bald-headed guy on the internet who's doing a faceless channel right now. And hopefully I said something that gets you to thinking, that gets you to wondering. And you know, y'all go out and do your own due diligence and research. Cause like I be having this argument in my office, man, where it's just like, I gotta remember I'm older than X amount of the folks in my office. And so the things that be on my or literally, my God, literally, that's the point. So you're gonna overwork the people who are supposed to be looking at this thing. So now they overworked. And what happens when you got overworked people doing something that really requires them to have a level of diligence? Certain things slip through the crack. And in case some of y'all didn't know, it only takes one financial institution to wipe out all of the FDIC money. It literally only takes one. The FDIC money is not as big as people think. That pot of money is not as big as people think. And it only takes like a Bank of America. Bank of America go under, ain't nobody else outside of Bank of America folks getting money because that was all of the FDIC money. Not to mention, if you're if you're a average, like regular, if you're a account holder, there's no, oh, we got to make you whole tomorrow. There's a time period and there's an order. If you're one of the high end investors in like a Bank of America, like folks in Saudi Arabia and the Prince of what you call it, like those folks, they're gonna be made whole first before you come along, way before you come along. But again, that's just me talking the randomness things I'm aware of. And we're gonna see how this goes. Like I said, I think people should try to hack that I just started working on myself, which is for the things that you want to pay attention to. And this is a way of like getting into your due diligence, because it is definitely hard to try to pay attention to everything, or like at least try to work on filtering through a lot of the noise for the true signal of whatever it is that you're trying to focus on. And that just happened to be one of the things I did. Went into the AI, said, hey, I'm trying to get more information in this particular thing. It gave me the phrases and how to put the stuff in the Google alerts. And then I get the stuff that pops up for the specific stuff that I'm looking for. And, you know, for what I'm trying to get done over the next couple of years, it's seemingly working right now. So that's all I got. Aside from that, folks, that is so crazy that's how much that was. Then I was looking at a solid state hard drive, and for the price of hard drives right now, it's wild because the sticker on this still says $54. If you've been to Micro Center, Best Buy, or one of them and looking at a 2 terabyte hard drive, it is not no $52, and not no $52. But anywho, I'm rambling. The nice is what it is. I'll be honest, I am not certain when I'm gonna do another live. Got gang stuff going on. There's so many things I would want to say in relation to that, but I am not. I'm a stay in a certain lane, and leave things there. If I meet you in person, though, see you in public or something, it might be a different conversation. But as far as these airwaves is concerned, not at all. But besides that, yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to make the next one, but we'll see. Something might scratch my brain sooner than later. I might just have something I really want to, push through, whatever. But other than that, y'all, it is a Thursday. Weekend's coming up. And as I say, for one human to the next, the best thing I can wish for y'all is to be in a safe place and in a safe space and in good company. Well, same thing, safe space and good company, right? But yeah, that's what I got. Damn, it feels like it's been forever since I've done a closeout, y'all. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing well, man. And I will catch y'all. So let's just close this out. I think I might actually stick with this laptop though. Not certain yet. What am I looking for? Do. I'm Trek with 2Ks.